Welcome back to The Rundown for a weekend deep dive. Today, we are tackling the booming business of online sports betting. It's become a multi-billion-dollar industry that's transformed dramatically since the landmark Supreme Court decision back in 2018 that opened the floodgates. Fast forward to 2025, and sports betting is embedded in American culture, and it's expanding deeper across international markets as well. So who are the biggest winners in this space? And what's the financial tolls on bettors who now have access to a 24/7 sportsbook in their pockets? That's what we're discussing on today's show, so let's get into it. I want to first start by talking about how we got here. How did sports betting become so popular? Well, we had to go back to 2018. There was a decision by the Supreme Court in a case called Murphy versus NCAA. And in that decision, the Supreme Court struck down the Professional and Amateur Sports Betting Protection Act. That was a law passed in 1992 that prevented states from legalizing sports betting, except for the state of Nevada. There was an exception made for them. But since 2018, 38 states, plus the District of Columbia, have legalized sports betting now. And the marketing around this has been insane. If you're a listener from the US, you know what I'm talking about, because you can't watch a sporting event for 30 seconds without being blasted with a commercial about sports betting. Commercials for these sports betting apps like DraftKings, FanDuel, ESPN Bet, with celebrities and famous athletes are constantly being shown during a sporting event. On top of that, you have sports broadcasts now mentioning point spreads and actively promoting these sports books as well. And I gotta say, all this marketing is definitely working. Americans wagered nearly $150 billion on legal sports betting in 2024. And 40% of Americans now say they have bet on sports. And a lot of that betting is happening on just two apps. The US sports betting market has become dominated by just two apps, FanDuel and DraftKings. And these two essentially have a duopoly over the market. FanDuel, whose parent company is Flutter, leads the US market with a 44% share, while DraftKings controls 35%. And their aggressive marketing and early expansion efforts have squeezed out many smaller rivals and shrunk the playing field. The growth happening at these companies is crazy. Like, just look at Flutter's US revenue. It tripled since 2021, going from $1.9 billion to $5.8 billion in 2024. And DraftKings is having a similar growth story. Their user growth climbed from 2.6 million back in 2020 to over 9 million today. But 2024 hasn't been so great for these sports books, and it has to do with the NFL. The 2024-2025 NFL season to date has been the most customer-friendly season since the launch of online sports betting, with the highest rate of favorites winning in nearly 20 years. And that's bad for sportsbooks because fans like to bet on favorites. So favorites winning all these games caused FanDuel to take a $370 million hit to their 2024 US revenue. And DraftKings sounded the alarm earlier back in November, saying the NFL result caused a $250 million impact to their revenues. But the losing streaks for these books is not expected to be a long-term trend. After all, most bettors don't quit when they're ahead. And in the end, what's the saying? The house always wins, right? So they're going to make that money back. And they're getting creative with ways to generate even more winnings from bettors and increase their hold, which is the percentage of money that sportsbooks keep from every dollar that's wagered. One way that DraftKings is doing this is by launching a subscription service in New York. Even sportsbooks are addicted to subscription services. The subscription service costs $20 a month. It was launched on New Year's, and it gives players access to boosted odds on parlays. And this is a twofold strategy for DraftKings. For one, it generates recurring revenue, which businesses like. It also encourages more gambling activities by offering better boosted odds. And then on top of that, it also builds user loyalty, right? Because players are more likely to stick with DraftKings if they're paying for a monthly subscription and getting boosted odds. Parlays are another way these sportsbooks try to squeeze more money out of bettors. Parlays are multiple bets on the same ticket, so you only win that bet if all those things on that parlay hit. And sportsbooks love to promote these because it shows huge payouts. So a $10 bet can result in a $90,000 winning. But the thing is, these are sucker bets because the odds of winning these bets are so low that it ends up being a pretty profitable bet for the sportsbook, which is why they promote it all the time. Now, it's not just sportsbooks like FanDuel and DraftKings that are cashing in on the popularity of legalized sports betting. State governments are also big winners here. States have collected a significant tax revenue from these sportsbooks' earnings. In 2023 alone, that was about $2.5 billion, which is a 35% increase from the previous year, giving states a strong incentive to embrace legalization. And since legalized sports betting is being enacted state by state, there's still plenty of untapped potential. Like New York is the largest market right now, followed by New Jersey. But states like Texas and California still haven't legalized sports betting yet. If they one day do, that would unlock massive new markets for these sports books. And let's not forget about the black market. The American Gaming Association estimates that Americans wagered nearly $64 billion annually through illegal bookies and offshore sites. So that could range from sophisticated underground websites to, more of a casual operation like your cousin running a bookie business from his basement. But, for legal operators like DraftKings and Flutter, this represents a pretty big opportunity. You still have a lot of big states that haven't legalized sports betting yet, like Texas, California, and Florida, and you still have Americans betting on underground websites. As more states start legalizing sports betting, the industry could start chipping away at the underground market, bringing more players to these legalized apps and growing that share of the pie. Now, there's actually an interesting connection between sports betting and investing. More betting is leading to less investing. According to new research from the professors at the Kellogg School of Management, shout out Northwestern, their findings reveal that nearly 8% of households are involved in gambling, with bettors spending an average of $1,100 annually on online bets. And as sports betting becomes more popular, net investments in those same households drop by nearly 14%. In fact, for every dollar a household spent on betting, it invested $2 less into accounts like retirement funds or the stock market. And to be fair, it's not just sports betting that is vying for these dollars, right? We've seen a growing appetite for speculative plays. A couple years ago, it was NFTs. We still have meme coins that are popular, like Fartcoin and other names that I can't say on this podcast, but you get the idea. And I think what's really driving this is people's desires to get rich quick and the need for instant gratification. Like, why wait years for compound interest when you can just do a 12-team parlay and try to turn $12 into $12,000, And some of this betting has gotten full-on degen. You can bet whether the next play in a football game will be a pass or a run. You can bet on the outcome of a jump ball in a basketball game. I mean, there's people out here betting on what colored tie Jerome Powell is going to wear during his press conference. And the answer is usually purple. He almost always wears purple. I've heard some people say that investing in the stock market is also gambling, but let's set the record straight here, okay? Long-term investing in the stock market is not gambling. In fact, it's the opposite. Because while the odds at a sports book, slot machine, or blackjack table turn increasingly against the player the longer you play, the stock market historically rewards patience. Over the past 96 years, through the end of 2023, 94% of all 10-year periods have delivered a positive return for the S&P 500. You're not going to find that stat about a sportsbook. All right, it's time for me to wrap up this week's deep dive. I just wanted to end by saying that it's pretty clear to me that sports betting is quickly sneaking its way into mainstream culture, and it's attracting billions of dollars in the process. And look, as someone who's a huge sports fan, I get why sports betting can be fun, but there are consequences of millions of people having a 24/7 sports book in their pocket, and I think it could have huge impacts long term, especially for young people. That being said, if you are betting on the NFL playoffs this weekend, good luck to everybody, and if you happen to win big, maybe consider putting that money towards the stock market. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's weekend deep dive. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did and you have like 12 seconds, consider giving us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And if you have any recommendations on topics we should cover in future weekend deep dive episodes, let us know in the comments. Some of you guys have already left recommendations in previous episodes, so thank you guys so much for that. Shout out to Mike and the fantastic team over at Public for all the help behind the scenes. I'll see you guys back here on Monday.